Right, so this is a walkthrough, adding a bit of description to this latch and handle that I'm doing here. So find the center of the door, put a little pilot hole in there, and then that will help with your bigger drill bit. Keep it central. So yeah, always start with a pilot hole when you're using a spade bit like that. It just helps keep it in the right place. I believe that's a 20mm spade bit. So then also do those side holes as well. Your latch will be set back a fixed amount. That'll either be 45mm or I think, is it 56mm? This one looked like it's more than 45. So those holes in the side of the door are set back, probably 56mm. But just check the latch that you've got. Get your chisel and just knock some at the top of the hole. Knock it in and lever it down. Do the same on the bottom, because you won't get that latch in that door with a 20mm hole. You probably need about 25mm, and you could use a 25mm spade bit, but I don't like to, because sometimes that's a little bit wider than the faceplate on the latch. So I like to keep it small with a 20mm hole and just make it a little bit bigger with a chisel top and bottom. So pop your latch in there and then mark the top and bottom of the faceplate. Square them across. And now mark your sides. After you mark those sides, set up your marking gauge. Now I recommend one of these marking gauges. They are the best when it comes to fitting stuff like this. You just can't beat it. The way it just run along the side of the door like that, that line that you're cutting into that grain, you won't beat it. You can just about get it with a standing knife sometimes if you're lucky, but it's easy to slip up with that. Not with these marking gauges. Highly recommend one. I think it was probably about 45 quid, but that was the best 45 quid I think I've ever spent in hand tools. Right, so I think that's a 25mm chisel, which perfectly fits in between those lines I've put with the marking gauge. So just take it easy and make sure you stay between those lines and just gently chisel out at an angle. Gently chisel that meat out. It's not really meat, it's wood. Right, see this bottom bit? Just get that out. So now you've got like a thin layer off, you can now afford to go around the perimeter. When you go down the side here, be very gentle. Tap it so light, so light. If you tap that too hard, it's gonna push against the wood and it's gonna give you a baggy hole. Nobody wants a baggy hole, so just be nice and light when you're going with the grain here, because it will stretch that hole. You don't want to do that. So go around the perimeter and then you can take another layer out. There's no rush here. You want to keep this looking good. So nice and gentle. Just chisel away. When you get your little strands, be careful when you rip them off, because sometimes those little rips, they follow the grain towards the outside of the line. And you don't want to be taking any timber outside of the line. You want to be staying inside the lines. So just go in one direction. Sometimes you need to then flip a chisel, sort of like cut it back on itself just to get it out. Sometimes you can rip it out. You get a feel for these things over time. See, look, I went to pull it and then it was a bad idea. So then I used the chisel to try and chop it. Now this little middle section here, you can afford to go a little bit deeper, but these top and bottoms, you want to be accurate with the depth of them, because if you go too deep, it's not going to look good. So remember, there's no rush. Go around the sides again, very lightly down the edges, very lightly, very light. Then you can go a little bit harder. You can go as hard as you want on these top and bottoms. They're not going to bruise over, not like the sides will. When you're going with the grain, you've got to be so light. When you're going across the grain, you don't have to be so light. So just go all the way around the perimeter again. And now you can chop out another layer. So just nice and easy. Get the depth just right in this section. But then, like I said, you can go a little bit deeper in the middle. Doesn't matter if you go over deep in the middle. Doesn't hurt. Just as long as you're accurate with the depth on the top and bottom. That will be what stops the plate from sinking in too far. If you do go too deep, well, you can always pack it out with a little thin bit of card or something like that. So just gently tap that in. Then get your pilot bit. Always pilot drill your holes. Because if you don't, the screw could likely do its own thing, go in slightly on the piss. You definitely don't want that. It won't look good. So always pilot hole your screw holes, so your screws can go in nice and square and sit nice and square. Just getting a knife just to neaten up around the edge of this. It's just a few little hairs I want to get rid of. See that one? Flick that away, give it a little cut and flick it away. Now you've got to work with what you got, because these face plates weren't that great. And if you look closely on the bottom, you can see it's a little bit of a funny shape. But just work with what you got, try your best, stay calm, and stay relaxed. And go into every one with the intention of it being the best one yet. Right, so as you can see, the rows of the handle has got lots of little holes in there. You want to be marking these two middle ones, because they're the ones that you want to drill through the door, so you can put through bolts through the handle. Now you must do this if you've got the opportunity, because putting those through bolts in makes the job so much easier, so much nicer. Gets the handle well aligned, and also it's just better. So I done little pilot hole, little drill bit. Now I'm doing the thicker drill bit. Now what I actually do is I reverse the drill first, so it sort of like centers on the hole before I then go forward through the hole. Just a little tip, just so that it stays more central. If you don't do that, sometimes a new drill bit can sort of like catch and go in the side of the pilot hole. If you just reverse it first, kind of burns its own little centralizing point. Don't know if that makes sense. It's quite late on a Friday night. It's 10 to 11. I'm pretty much chatting crap. Right, so put your through bolts through. You might have to cut them down, which I did, or snip them down with a pair of pliers. I was lucky they were soft enough just to snap with a pair of cutting pliers. There we go again. Look, just snip the end off, and then get it. Yep, just smooth the end off with a little bit of sandpaper, so that you've got a fighting chance of making these through bolts meet in the middle. So there we go, got them together. Screwdriver in one side, screwdriver in another. Be careful not to mark the top of the handle. Done that before, you don't want to do that. Now get the handle nice and level, and pilot hole these extra little holes. They're like positioning holes really, to keep everything all nice and lined up. There we go, that handle's not going anywhere. Same on the other side. Close the door, mark the latch on the door frame. Right, you want the end result that to be flush. So there we go, just square those little lines across. And then measure in where you want from the frame's edge to the hole. That's important measurement, that is. Whatever it is on the door, you've got to do on the frame. That measurement there is important. So line that up, draw around it. Or not, maybe just draw in the middle like I did there. Well anyway, I think it's a good idea to cut the hole first that the latch is going to go into, because you can cut this hole, and then once you cut the hole, you can close the door and you can see if your hole is in the right place. If it's baggy, you know, and there's a bit of play in the door, you know that when you put the faceplate on, you've got to edge it towards the doorstop a little bit extra. If you close it and it don't quite catch, you know that you've got to take a little bit more out of the hole. Or if you close it and it catches nicely, you then know that that edge of the hole is in the right place. And you can place your faceplate over it, line the hole in the faceplate with the hole that you've put in the frame, and then it gives you the perfect position to then draw around the faceplate. So here I am, look, just taking my time, making that hole nice and neat. Some people like to drill these out with big drill bits, but I just quite like doing it the old-fashioned way. So I'm a bit of a sad twat, really. There we go. There we go, look, check it. It's good. So now I know that hole's in the right place, I can put the faceplate on it. Line the edges up, edge of the hole with the edge of the faceplate. Now I know it's in a good position. Draw around. There we go. Trying to use the marking gauge. It's a little bit difficult because there's an architrave on the door frame, but just try your best. If you've got the opportunity to use a marking gauge, especially one of these wheeled types, use it because they just give beautiful parallel lines that cut into softwood frames beautifully. So yeah, like I say, recommend one of those. So you cut your upright lines with the marking gauge, then you do your cross lines, cross the grain lines with your chisel. So just lightly take the first layer out with the chisel. You don't have to take much out, it just keeps your lines accurate if you don't take a massive amount out. And just start taking that first layer off. Take your time, make it nice. Keep your chisels nice and sharp. Sometimes when you're in a rush, it's tempting to just try it with the state that your chisels are already in. Here we go, look. Remember, when you're doing those up and down with the grain sort of cuts, just be so light. But yeah, like I was saying, keep your chisels sharp. Sometimes it's worth just giving them a little once over before you get going on a job like this, because it saves you time in the long run and just makes for a more enjoyable experience, which is really what it's all about. Because I do remember when I first started learning to use chisels and do chisel work, I remember finding it rather stressful. And I don't find it stressful anymore. I enjoy it. But keeping your chisel sharp definitely helps towards the enjoyment of it all. So yeah, just keep at it. If you make a mistake, don't get too stressed. Because when you're chopping out stuff like this, you make a little mistake and you think it's going to look bad. It never usually looks as bad as you think it's going to once you pop that faceplate in the recess that you've just created. And see, when I chisel these top and bottom lines, I actually angle the chisel slightly. You've got to be so light when you start these lines. You don't have to you don't wham that chisel in hard. If you knock that chisel in hard, it like bruises the wood and the line that you want to cut moves slightly. So the first cut into the timber with the chisel, just make it so light. All you have to do is just take the first layer of paint off. That's it. Once you've once you've taken that first layer off and you've got a perimeter going, you can start hammering and chiseling a little bit harder, but just start off light. Light doesn't hurt. Might take a little bit longer because you've got to take a few more layers off, but the end result is worth it. Also, if you notice, this hammer that I've got isn't a hammer, it's a mallet. And I think it's called a Thor mallet. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend. One of the best tools I've ever bought. It makes playing with chisels 10 times better. I don't know why, it just does. You've just got to believe me. And you've just got to get one. Treat yourself. I got this one for a birthday present. Wait for a birthday. Somebody who's willing to spend about 30 quid on you, ask for that hammer. You won't regret it. Right, so as you can see, I'm now making that hole bigger. I got it in the right place for the door to latch, but I need to make it bigger now because obviously I used that hole to position my faceplate. So now I know that faceplate is in the right place, but I actually need to make the hole bigger because there's part of the faceplate that now needs to go into that hole. Now making that hole bigger now won't make the door slack because the restriction isn't on the door anymore in the frame. The restriction is on the faceplate. Hope that makes sense. If this stuff doesn't make sense, hang a few doors and then come back and watch it again. That might make more sense, or it might not, because I might not be very good at explaining myself. Right, to get that faceplate back in, pilot hole, gotta be done. Pilot hole, got to be done. There we go. All nice and flush. If it's not flush, whip it off, take a little bit more out. If it's too deep, whip it off, put something behind it, put it back. And there we go. Good enough for council work. Check if the door works. If it does, pack your tools up. You've done more than enough today. Get out of there. You've done good. Time to go home.